Hello, Dibs. It's time for another Fantasy Football Weekly recap. This is the Week 5 edition of the 2024 season, and I am your host, Bennett. Happy to be back after missing last week. I had committed to myself that I would not miss a week of updates, but alas, last week got away from me. The excuse I'm going to use is that my lowly Braves were sputtering to the end of the season. Monday was spent watching the Braves come back and then blow a lead against the Mets, who the Braves then had to win the second game of the doubleheader in order just to make the playoffs, fly to San Diego, lose two in a row. Braves are done. They're out. Meanwhile, the Mets, in case you haven't been paying attention, if you're only into football, the Mets had a big comeback against the Brewers after losing the first game. They came back in both the second and third game. And as much as I hate my heated division rivals, the Mets, I'm actually rooting for this team because, number one, I hate the Phillies, so I'm hoping they continue to beat the Phillies. They're up 2-1 in the series as I record this. But also, the Mets, I have a lot of respect for a very scrappy team, a team that wins together. They're not the best offensively. They don't have the best stats, but yet they get key hits at key times. They have good approach, and they're kind of the definition of a team, which is who always wins in baseball. This team that not just gets hot, but that gets kind of this vibe of camaraderie and, moving together, and it's some kind of vibe that happens where they pick each other up, and it's really exciting. So, as disappointed as I am that the Braves are out, I'm going to be rooting for the Mets moving forward. So again, that's my excuse for not doing a weekly recap last week. This week, the excuse is different. It's not that I am not doing the recap. It's that I didn't watch hardly any football this weekend. And that's a good thing because I was out enjoying the weather with my family. I've had an epic fall with my kids. My 12-year-old daughter is in softball, and my 15-year-old son's playing baseball. So just to give you an idea of why I didn't watch any football last weekend, Saturday morning was the Park Road Parade in West Hartford. My son was in the pep band, and the Meali team, my real estate team, were participating in the parade. So not only did I participate in the parade, but I was literally marching right behind my son, who was in the back of the pep band playing flute. So that was an amazing experience. From there, he had a baseball game at Hall High School. So we go. He plays baseball. Then at 3 o'clock, the Hall football team had their home game, where Evan is also in the pep band for that game. So Saturday was just wall to wall, local sports, local action. It was so much fun. Um, Hall ended up winning their first game of the year on a game-winning field goal with about a minute left, and the weather was perfect. Just an amazing weekend, or amazing Saturday. Follow that up by Sunday, which was almost as amazing because there was no parade or football game, but there was a baseball and a softball game. My son is really coming into his own as a hitter and as a pitcher, and my daughter especially. They won their first game after going 0-8 to start the season. And they had one of these games where everything kind of came together. They made a bunch of plays in the field, and they pitched, they hit, and it was really exciting to see a group of girls who don't really care about winning too much, but at the same time, they really wanted that first win. And also to watch my daughter becoming a leader on the field as she's kind of directing people in the infield and shouting out the situation before each batter. So really proud dad weekend, a lot of fun, wall-to-wall stuff, but not much football. So I'm going to attempt to do a recap starting right now of the weekend, and I'm just going to go game by game, and I definitely do not have firsthand knowledge or firsthand viewing of any of these games. So I'm just going to kind of wing it and go for it. But here we go. So the first game, as you can see, and I'm just going in order. The Killer Bees, my team, falls to 0-5. Absolutely abysmal year here. Not Chat GPT. did get 120 points. They go to 2-3. You can see, other than Lamar Jackson, he's the only one basically that's played on that's done anything on my team all year. You've got, and my field goal kicker, who helped the Falcons win an amazing uh, game on Thursday night. That was actually the only football I watched all week, was the Falcons having a big comeback against the Buccaneers on Thursday. So that was exciting. But as you can see, Devontae Adams has been hurt. McCaffrey has been hurt all year. Puka Nacua got hurt in the first game. I had Josh Palmer on a bye, not that he was doing anything. So really, my team is just hurting big time, and I only got 95 points, or excuse me, 105 points, which is actually sort of high for the year. So I fall to 0-5. Not Chat GPT goes to 2-3. Big news here with the Mahomes getting their first loss of the year. They were previously unbeaten. So we now have no unbeaten teams in the league. Of course, we still have a winless team, as I just mentioned. But they lose to the Cash Flow Crusaders, who had a solid game. I mean, even though the Bengals lost, I did see that Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow had amazing games, 39 points there. Mike Evans, who just keeps every year, it just puts up numbers every year. Dak Prescott didn't do too shabby, especially with that game winner on Monday night. And excuse me, I think that was Sunday night. Pretty much just got enough points to win. The Mahomes had just didn't score a lot of points. I mean, I'm looking, they didn't really have anyone on a bye. Obviously, Tua's hurt, but with Brock Purdy, that's not necessarily the reason. So they just had an off week, and they get their first loss, the Mahomes. We have Only Idiots Pay for College going to 3-2 with a big 130 points. They are at the upper end of the scoring for the week. The aforementioned Joe Burrow with 40 points, and just kind of double digits from everyone else down the line. The Derry Demons fall to 3-2. They did have the big struggle for them was having Kirk Cousins on the bench with 40 points, and having Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert on a bye. So I don't think that would have made the difference. The net of 25 more points, having Cousins over Josh Allen, would not have done the job, but still, it sucks to have 40 points on your bench and a couple guys on a bye. So they lose to Only Idiots Play for College. They're both 3-2. We have the End Zone Esquires falling to 1-4. They're the closest team to be as lowly as my Killer Bees. So they're 1-4. They don't crack 100. They lose to Sausage Party. Sausage Party, just had a well-rounded game here. I've never even heard of Tucker Kraft, so 24 points for having Tucker Kraft in. And let's see, I've just never heard of him. So yeah, he had 14 points the week before, so apparently he's coming into his own. I don't know enough about the Packers to know if that's from an injury, but obviously 24 points, you'll take it, especially with Sam Laporta on a bye and Jared Goff on a bye. So Sausage Party's got to be happy with winning, with having two of their better players on a bye week there. And the Esquires, again, just not scoring a lot of points, even though they did start off the week well with Darnell Mooney, 27.5 points, and apparently had no one to put in for Amon St. Brown. So they just have a big 0 there. And really, with Devontae Smith on a bye and hurt, and Tank Dell hurt, that's why I guess they had no one to put in. You can see Mingo and Dobbs didn't do anything on the bench anyway. So just not a good week for the Esquires, with St. Brown on a bye, and they take the loss. They're 1-4. Meanwhile, Eric's team goes to 4-1. We've got the Emoji team beating Go Bijan Go. They go to 3-2, while Go Bijan Go falls to 1-4. Not spectacular points for either team, although Garrett Wilson did get 23 points there. What's becoming a stud wide receiver, Brock Bowers, the rookie, or excuse me, tight end. He got 21 points. And so they take the win, even if not in spectacular fashion. 113-94. And the last game, which was actually looks like Judgment Day is the tough luck loser. They get this, if I'm looking at this right, the second highest points of the whole league. And of course, they lose to the team that had the most points in the league. So that does happen in fantasy football. Unfortunately, Gritty Dancer goes to 4-1 with 26 from Baker Mayfield, 23 from the Jacksonville receiver here. Just a lot of points, evenly distributed throughout the team. Even with Mahomes on the bench, that was actually the good move there. And the Judgment Day with also a lot of well-rounded scoring, just not quite enough. They did have Kyler Murray on the bench over Jaden Daniels. That's pretty not a bad move. They're both very solid quarterbacks, and you can only start one. And then you have AJ Brown on a bye, so that might have been the thing that tipped it over. Had he played, he may have gotten some more points. But tough luck loss for Judgment Day. They fall to 2-3, and Gritty Dancer goes to 4-1. Let's take a quick look at the power rankings, which, as we talked about before, my team was in first place after the draft, and by the end of week 1, we're down to 12 and haven't moved up since then. Sausage Party is trending up. They go from 12 to 3. They've been slowly climbing. The Emoji Team is up to 6, or up 6 places to number 5, and Mahomies, they go up. I don't know why they're not the number 1 team already, because they have the most points and they just suffered their first loss, as you'll see in the standings. You've got the Mahomies at the top, the Killer Bees at the bottom. Got a couple 4-1 teams in the West Division. And as I mentioned with scores, you can see the Mahomies and Gritty Dancers clearly deserving their number 1 spot. They've got the most points by not a huge margin, but somewhat margin. And then as we go down, you could see the lowly Killer Bees easily with the lowest points in the league, not even scoring 100 points a game over 5 weeks. And that's pretty much explains why they're 0-5. And finally, before I wrap up here, the Bench Player of the Week award goes to the aforementioned Kirk Cousins, who had 40 points on the bench. Although that didn't really affect the game. Which game was that? That was was that End Zone? That was the Derry Demons have had Kirk Cousins on their bench. Again, the net of 25 points by having him instead of Josh Allen would not have been the difference in the game, but still, nonetheless, you got Kirk Cousins as this week's Bench Player of the Week. And I'm going to wrap it up quickly here. So thank you for watching as always. And as you can see in the standings, there's a long way to go, but there are some teams kind of rising to the top. And I'll be back with another recap next week after week 6, I promise. And thank you as always for watching. This is Bennett signing off on the Dads in Business Fantasy Football Weekly Recap Show, week 5. Thanks for watching.